here at the bus station in Pamplona waiting for my bus to Saint John. And there are two buses, one at noon and then at 1:30. It takes about 2 hours to get up to Saint John from here, and it costs 22 euros. I just made it into Saint John. It took just over 2 hours. And I'm going to grab a bite to eat, explore town a bit, and then go look for my albergue, which should be just out of town. Saint John looks really, really pretty. This is a pilgrim's office here, where you can get your credentials sealed. And a very cool stamp. And the old pilgrims waiting. I'm getting a bit of an early start. Today it's 23 kilometers, but it's like a 1,000-meter climb, so it should be a bit of a challenge. We'll see how it goes. I'm a bit out of breath. I'm almost at the top of this hill, I think, and it's only about another 2 kilometers to Orson, where there's an albergue. I'll get my breakfast, or at least a coffee. But it is steep uphill all the way down in the valley. This is Saint John and the fogs. And it looks like another beautiful day on the Camino. It is about another 14 kilometers to Roncesvalles, I think. But so far it's been uphill. But the scenery has been absolutely stunning. And one of my favorite walks of all walks so far. So I'm really glad I came back to do the Français. I missed this walk on my first Camino because it had snowed. And also because I didn't want to do the uphill walk. But here we are. And it's a beautiful, beautiful morning. Taking a quick break, having a quick sandwich. Good cheese. All in all, I'd say I counted around 40 pilgrims, which is not all too bad. And they all spaced out. Let's go back to the end of the Roncesvalles. It's about a few hundred feet. And we'll be there. I'm looking forward to it. It was a tough walk. All in all, I'd say I counted around 40 pilgrims, which is not all too bad. And they all spaced out. Let's go back to the end of the Roncesvalles. It's about a few hundred feet. And we'll be there. I'm looking forward to it. It was a tough walk.
1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16 17 18 19 20 21 22 23 24 25 26 27 28 29 30 31 32 33 34 35 36 37 38 39 40 41 42 43 44 45 46 47 48 49 50 51 52 53 54 55 56 57 58 59 60 61 62 63 64 65 66 67 68 69 70 71 72 73 74 75 76 77 78 79 80 81 82 83 84 85 86 87 88 89 90 91 92 93 94 95 96 97 98 99 100 101 102 103 104 105 106 107 108 109 110 111 112 113 114 115 116 117 118 119 120 121 122 123 124 125 126 127 128 129 130 131 132 133 134 135 136 137 138 139 140 141 142 143 144 145 146 147 148 149 150 151 152 153 154 155 156 157 158 159 160 161 162
about 6:30. I'm just leaving. This is the albergue behind me. It's a very nice albergue, but it's run by really bad hospitaleros. They have all rules for everything, so it felt more like going to jail, and you didn't feel very welcomed. And it's 755 kilometers to Santiago. It is a bit narrow, and you do share the road. I set out early because there were hundreds of pilgrims getting ready at 6. So I decided just to leave before the rush. Really, really, very pretty. Just stopped for breakfast. I always love this blue skies you get in the morning. And by the look of it, we're going to have another close to perfect day weather-wise. Just walking through the forest here. It's about another 12 kilometers to Zurubi, but I hope to make it a bit further. But it's been a really beautiful walk this morning. Even though I walked this stretch before, last time I walked it was in the winter. There are a few pilgrims, one or two noisy ones behind me, but it's easy to get rid of them by simply walking a bit faster. But it's been a really, really beautiful walk here this morning. These villages are really beautiful. Some countries have milk delivery, they have bread delivery. I just stopped at a little roadside stand. On my back here, I had an extra stick. Somebody forgot and they called the cafe. So hopefully I'll be able to give it to her. Just about in Zubiri. I'm going to stop here for a quick break and to get some money out of the ATM, and then I'll carry on and go as far as I can. Beautiful bridge, and now I'm heading towards Pamplona, or at least as close as I can get to it. But it's much flatter now, so I should be able to make up some decent distance. There's a little streams. No major challenges. Had a quick rest there, and then right out of this little town there was a gravel path going steep down, and it just took one misplaced footstep and everything started to slide, and I went for a major tumble and ended upside down in a fence, so my backpack got a bit torn up, but thankfully that was it. The reason I had my boots on this morning was so that I wouldn't fall on those really bad sections. Arriving at the final stop, it's a albergue parroquial, which means it's run by nuns or monks, and this one's run by some really nice nuns, but a really good experience. And I am just leaving the albergue here behind us. The hospitaleros out there wishing everybody a goodbye. Ciao! I am about 8 kilometers outside of Pamplona. So today I'm going to make it to Puente de la Reina, hopefully, if everything goes well. Instead of crossing the bridge today, I'm going to keep on going straight, because that way you cut out all the walking through the city. Even though I think I might just run over the bridge quickly because there's a beautiful church to get a quick stamp. A very cool stamp. This is the actual Camino. As you can see, there's a marker there. But on this way, you go all the way through town. I am going to go on the other side, just following the river back there, which is supposed to be a lot of parks. It is a very beautiful stretch here. Beautiful entrance to the city, and this is a beautiful, beautiful city. I'm just going to have a stop, and then I am going to continue. Stop for coffee and this fancy looking thing. following the Camino signs. I finally made it out of Pamplona. It took about 2 hours in total from the entrance to the exit, but it was really nice this time because it didn't go through any industrial area. This now is the university, and up ahead is the climb to the Alto de Perdón. So it's a steep climb up. The windmills are up ahead. You can see them way in the distance, and that's something that you'll notice on the Camino Francés. Wherever the windmills, that's where you're usually heading. Another quick rest stop. It's been my third rest on this way up from Pamplona. This is a really beautiful place with a nice old cross, as you can see there. It's about another 2 kilometers up to Alto de Perdón, and it's a climb up, but it'll take me probably another 45 minutes from top there, and then it's another 8 kilometers, 9 kilometers from there to Puente la Reina. Just walking through the little town before the Alto de Perdón. A bunch of pilgrims wanted to stay here, but the albergue is closed. So good thing is that I booked ahead and had planned going up the hill anyway, choice. I changed into my boots because I remember it being rather treacherous, better said dangerous, because of all these rocks. But it's 10 kilometers to Puente la Reina, so it's about 2.5 hours. So I should be there by 6:30ish, something like that. I had a very good night's sleep because I had my own room with very nice sheets, and it's just about 8 o'clock. It's just getting light, and I'm heading down to the bridge. And there is the famous bridge crossing the Agora River here. Today I'm going to Estella. It's only 21 kilometers, so it should be easier, making it a bit shorter day. Yesterday I did 36 kilometers according to my watch, which was quite a lot, but I felt really, really tired when I got to the hostel because it was very hot yesterday. Some pilgrims ahead of us, and there's a sign to the bar where I'm heading. So I got myself a botella with tortilla de chistorra and a coffee. And now we're on to the next stretch. And if I don't remember wrong, the next stretch is really, really pretty. Beautiful town here. Back on a little section of the Roman road. It's really nice. It's much more difficult to walk on these roads because they're rather rocky. But the view coming up, I remember from my first Camino Francés, is really spectacular. Because you've got the old Roman road and you have the brand new highway that I think goes all the way to Santiago from here. And it is actually like it would have been in the Roman times, not all the big giant stones, because the Romans used to walk 20 to 30 kilometers a day, just like I'm trying to do right now. Final little stretch into Estella. It's actually a beautiful walk here. About another kilometer or so to go, but it's nice because it's in the shade finally, and it's not quite as hot. Just looking for my albergue, which is supposed to be somewhere very close by. And this is a fantastic albergue because you have curtains, easy stairs to go up, and a beautiful little nook with a light up bed and storage lockers further down. It's about 6:30, just leaving the Agora hostel. Fantastic hostel. It is still dark, and you can see it. Everybody was up early, so I decided to make it an early day. I'm going to just go to Sansol today, which is just beyond Los Arcos, which would be the normal stop, so it's a bit longer too, but it should be a good day. Barely make out where I'm going with my flashlight. But here in Irache, we have a very special time here. Somebody is filling up. It's not the best wine in the world though. It's a beautiful crisp morning. The sun is rising. And we just were at the point where there was a bend off. One goes over the mountains, and it's about a kilometer shorter. Beautiful fields. Not a single cloud in the sky yet. It's really, really pretty. It is getting warm. There's a castle all the way on the hill on the back there. Rest area behind there. A lot of the pilgrims stop there. But it's only 2 kilometers to Los Arcos. I'm going to stop for a coffee there. And then from there it's another 7 kilometers to Sansol, where I'm staying tonight. Leaving Los Arcos, got myself an ice cream, and it's another 6 kilometers or so to Sansol, and that way it makes it 27 kilometers, which is not a bad day. Beautiful old palaces in albergue, very nice rooms, but it's pretty full. I'm lucky I reserved, because I did get a bottom bunk bed, but they had to kick somebody out of the bottom bunk. just coming up to something that I thought was days ago. Hope you can make it out properly. They have all these little towers, and then there's a tree. Pretty cool. It's a beautiful morning. It's not too cold. Fresh fields. Oh, and some rocks in the middle of the road. You have to watch out. We just made it over the peak, and down there in the distance, all the way down there, is Logroño, where we're heading. And then I'm going to go a bit beyond that. But it's been very nice because there have been very few pilgrims this morning. And we're going down the main street here. We're going to stop for some breakfast. I had my coffee, and now I'm heading on to Logroño. It's only another 8 kilometers to Logroño, so it's another 2 hours. I'm not going to stay in Logroño because I do want to keep on going so that I'm not on the regular schedule of everybody else, so that it doesn't become a big problem finding hotels and so on. And we're slowly entering into the Rioja region, where most of the Spanish wines, or most known Spanish wines, come from. Here on the hill is a funny looking bull, and what it actually is a advertising campaign that was so successful that when they banned billboards, this guy got to stay. It's for a brandy called Osborne. So they're very cool. They're all over Spain, and whenever you see one, they're always fun. Just made it into Navarette. I'm looking for the municipal albergue, which I think is right up here. The good thing about albergues municipales is that you cannot reserve ahead of time. Everything else was booked up. Be sure to check out the church because it's unbelievable. Got a bit of a limp today. I don't know why exactly. Here, I put my knee brace on, and hopefully that will do the trick. I am going to try to make it to Cigüeña, which is right before Santo Domingo de la Calzada. It's about 30 kilometers. Normally where you would stop if you would have started in Logroño. There are a bunch of albergues in town, but I'm going to keep on going, hopefully another 10 kilometers or so that I'll end up with like 26 to 30 kilometers today. But it is a pretty town. Made it into Santo Domingo, and I'm just looking for the albergue. There were some major snorers, so I snuck out to an empty dorm room. Today's a short day, it's only 22 kilometers to Belorado, and I did book myself a private room. Just had my breakfast. I did notice yesterday that if I don't have my breakfast in the morning, I'm slow. So it should be a quick, easy walk. It is overcast, but I'm not sure it's supposed to rain. Here is the sign that we're entering Castilla y León, and it is a long stage. I think it is around 300-400 kilometers at least. So this is basically where the meseta starts. It goes all the way to Galicia, about 150 kilometers from Santiago. It's been quite a long walk today here to Belorado, but thankfully it never rained. And I'm just about down at the place I reserved. And today I reserved a single room so I can rest a bit. That's also one reason I like to get in a bit earlier, so I can really take advantage of having a single room. Just outside of Belorado, about a kilometer or two, I had my first coffee here at the gas station because all the bars and cafes were closed. I am heading to Atapuerca today. I think it's like 25-26 kilometers. It is very overcast. In the background there you can see the pilgrims slowly slugging up the hill. I have been trying to get away from the crowds, because if you get up a bit too late or a bit too early, there are masses of people leaving. But as you can see, it's really foggy. Just stopped in Montes de Oca. Beautiful little town, lots of cafes and a whole bunch of albergues. And last time I came through this area it was also very foggy. It's 12 kilometers till the next stop, with no services, no villages. But so far this morning it's been really nice. There've been a whole bunch of villages, so there've been a lot of little stops. And now it's a beautiful section through the forest. Long straight before we head down to San Juan de Ortega. Very nice little town. There were 2 albergues there, but I decided just to carry on to where I wanted to go today, to Atapuerca. And that sign there points to where they found the oldest human remains. The artifacts and the skull are actually not here. They're in a museum in Burgos. So if you want to see more about it and learn more about it, I highly recommend the museum in Burgos, because it's a huge, fantastic modern museum, and you can go down and see the actual skull and learn more about the whole story about it. But it's fascinating. There are 2 or 3 albergues here. One right here. I'm going to see if they've got space. Sadly, I'm not staying in Atapuerca because the hostel was... I don't know if it was full, but there were so many people waiting to get in. So I called the... Adios. I called the one in the next town and I got myself an ice cream. So I've got fuel to make it to the next one. But it's been a little bit longer than expected today. Like 36 kilometers in total. But thankfully the weather was very cool, so it made it very easy. But here we are. Cardenuera Riopico is the name of this town. Very funny name. But I guess there must be a little river somewhere. I got a whole room to myself. There's only one other pilgrim from Taiwan and 2 French pilgrims that I met in Atapuerca because they were waiting to get a room there. And when I arrived, they had been waiting for 15-20 minutes and they were getting annoyed. So I just called up this place and here we are. A very nice little albergue. It's just about getting light. I took it a bit easy because it's only 12 kilometers into Burgos. And it is drizzling a bit, so I'm covered up. I put on a small rain jacket. I got my umbrella just in case it starts to rain a bit more, but it didn't seem to be enough for using the poncho. The poncho is a pain to put on and off, and it's just like a heavy drizzle. Nice little village on the horizon there. And the Camino that's running next to the road. We're on a little variant that takes you away from the industrial area. We will be passing the airport and then before Burgos, coming into a very nice long park. This building here is where Columbus came to talk to the kings to get funding for his journey to the New World. I just visited the cathedral, got my stamp. Burgos is absolutely stunning. We're just standing here by the entrance to the town, and the river is right here. Tardajos is 10 kilometers from here, so it's not a big long walk. Looks scruffy when you first arrive. Got myself a private room and I think I deserved it, and this is actually a very nice room. It's still rather dark outside. It's supposed to start to rain in the next day or this afternoon. I have my punch in my back pocket so that in case it starts to rain I can just pull it out because there's a big storm front coming up. Just entering the Valley de la Calzada. Very pretty. Beautiful, beautiful little town. And here we go down the street. And there's a very special mural coming up. The sun is rising behind me. And it is just stunningly beautiful. And we've got a big giant rainbow up here in front of us. Beautiful. It's raining a bit, but it's off and on. So I'm just using my trusty little umbrella here. Because putting on your poncho and taking off your poncho is a pain. And the umbrella is up and down in 2 seconds. just going by a police car, which is patrolling the whole area here, which just makes you feel good because a lot of times you're just out here in the middle of nowhere with nothing. We're just entering Hornillos del Camino. I've stayed here before. We have the central plaza of Hornillos, and in the bottom corner there is the Albergue Municipal. Just about in Montanas, down the bottom of the valley there. The clouds are slowly starting to appear, and in the background it doesn't look all too nice. Just had my coffee. Actually, I had 2 coffees today because I know that there's no coffees coming up. The sun has come out, and just looking around here, it looks really, really beautiful. It's about a 300-meter climb, but it's very manageable. It's not all too bad at all. But the wind is still very, very strong. I'm just leaving Itero de la Vegas, and it was the first town outside of Castrojire. I had lunch here because there's nothing for the next 8 kilometers, so it's been like 10-11 kilometers till here, and that's another 10 kilometers. So I had a nice lunch at a very funny place, very funny hosts at the Albergue La Mochila, but it was very, very nice. Arriving in Boadilla de Camino. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to check out the albergue. It's only another 5 kilometers to Fromista, but I've stayed in Fromista before, and I think this might be a better choice. I am leaving the albergue here in Boadilla. As you can see, I've got my punch on because it is raining today, and it's supposed to rain all day. Yesterday was a super windy day, and today is supposed to be a super rainy day. Today it is only like 23 kilometers, so it's not all too bad. And I'm covered up with my new poncho. Hopefully it'll be a good poncho. And hopefully it'll be a bit less windy than it's been so far, because it's been really, really windy the last few days. Welcome to the Camino. I think I am. It's about 5 kilometers to Fromista, which is actually a very pretty town. But I decided to stay here because I've already stayed in Fromista before. One thing that's really cool here is you get to walk over logs. pretty ancient. Pretty darn cool. I'm off to Carrión de los Condes now. I just had a coffee, and as you can see, I'm no longer in my poncho because it stopped raining. Hopefully it'll stay like this. I got my poncho at the ready just in case I need it. But it's 19 kilometers to Carrión. I should be there by 2 o'clock. We're finally just about in Carrión. It's about 1.5 kilometers. And it's been a miserable last hour and a half of 6 kilometers because it rained like crazy. And even though I've got fancy boots and a poncho, I still got wet. Took off my gaiters and the bottoms of my pants because they were totally soaked, and all the water that hits your pants goes down into the boots. So my feet are wet, even though these boots are Vortex and everything. They are totally soaked. I'm taking a rest day. Turns out to be a beautiful day today. And this is my hotel. Place truly is pretty fantastic. Even the ceilings here are just absolutely incredible. I am just leaving the hotel here in Carrión. It's about 7 a.m. It is very cold. It's about 5 degrees centigrade, which is probably allowed in the low 30s or high 20s. And today I'm hoping to make it to the halfway point of Sahagún. And we'll see how it goes, but there is no wind right now. And I see stars in the sky, so it's a good sign. It's about 35 kilometers or something like that, but it is flat. It's about 17 kilometers from Carrión to the first stop, so it's a bit longer stretch this morning. But every now and then they have these little rest stops set up because there aren't any services. It's quite a long stretch actually with nothing. Which is just beyond this little dip here. We have Calzada. Calzada is rather scruffy. There are a few albergues, but otherwise there's not much. But I'm gonna keep on going to Sahagún. Sahagún marks the halfway point of the Camino Francés. So it's quite the milestone in a way. Very nice albergue. It's called the Albergue Cluny. Very nicely separated, and there were very few people in the albergue. I left all my stuff at the albergue, heading down to the little monument that marks the halfway point of the Camino Francés. So it's been 390 kilometers that I've walked so far, and it's another 390 kilometers to go. It is still rather dark. I'm going for my coffee right now. There is a coffee shop right here, but I'm going to a bakery around the corner. They open at 6:30, which is very nice, and I know that they make good coffee because I've stopped there on my last Camino. I'm going to try to make it as close to León as possible today. That way I get a bit more time in León tomorrow. It's about 50 kilometers to León or something like that. I'm not 100% sure, 50 or 60. but it's a bit too long to make it in one stretch. And my main goal today is to make up as much distance as possible. And when you're on the meseta here, that's literally what you want to do. You want to make up as much distance in as short a time as possible. Just walking through Burgos, Reina, which normally would be the stage end. It's only 18 kilometers, so I'm going to carry on to the next one, which would be Mansilla de las Mulas. The Camino here is extremely flat, as is the terrain, but all the way in the back there are the Picos de Europa. We are next to a road, but there's absolutely no traffic on the road. The one thing I've noticed is that whenever you carry on after a stage, there are no pilgrims left. Still walking next to the road. It's about another kilometer or so till we're in Mansilla de las Mulas. And as you can see, the clouds have come back. It's been a long walk today. Just stopped for a coffee, and I got this, which is a torrija, which is delicious, kind of like a French toast. Another 18 kilometers from here to León. It's a very flat Camino. It's really not the nicest section of the Camino. There's only one little nice part, which is a bridge, and then it's all pretty much sidewalk and industrial area, so I didn't film much, but we're just about in León. Old Town starts just up front here, and tonight I'm booking a single room for 35 euros, which isn't much more than the albergue in Mansilla de Mulas. I'm just on my way out of León. Right in front of me is a bridge that crosses over to the Camino Francés. Behind me is the Parador, which is a really fancy hotel, which costs $450. It didn't used to. It used to be quite reasonable. But I'm going to try to make it to Hospital del Brigo, which is about 30 kilometers today. So we'll see how that goes. The walk out of León isn't really very pretty. It's mostly just sort of nondescript residential areas. And now we're making it out to the industrial area. There's still markers on the floor marking that it is the Camino, and there always are the little arrows painted everywhere. So you really can't get lost. The Camino bends off into two sections, the north and the south section. I'm going to take the north section because I know it's shorter. We're next to a very, very busy road here. Sadly, there aren't any stocks around. Myself a bocadillo at the panaderia with jamón and cheese, because I didn't want to stop at a restaurant and waste too much time because there's still a long ways to go. But these bocadillos, there was 3 years of really, really, really delicious bocadillo. I'm just about in Hospital del Brigo. It's It's a beautiful, beautiful town, as you'll see in a second. There are two very good albergues here, so hopefully they have good space. I ended up switching albergues because there were so many people, but this one is really, really nice. Leaving the albergue here in Hospital de Obrigo, absolutely wonderful albergue, called the Albergue Verde. The Camino this morning is still next to the road, but in a short while we're going to be bending off. It's a stunning sunrise. We're still next to the highway, by the way, but only because I took the different variant of the Camino, the shorter version, without actually knowing it. Approaching Astorga, which is all the way down in the bottom there. There's a little town before. It's about another 5 or 6 kilometers, way further than it actually looks. The weather has become a bit foggy, wettish. It's not raining, it's a slight drizzle, maybe not even that. But I'm going to continue on another 7 or 8 kilometers just so that I'm a bit ahead. And there are a whole bunch of little towns. There's one in 2 kilometers, and then one in 4 kilometers, and so forth. Still very early to quit for my liking, so I'm going to give it another hour, and then I'm going to take a rest. Ahead is Santa Catalina, the town I'm going to be staying in tonight. It is starting to drizzle a bit heavier, and it's about 4 o'clock, so I think it's time to call it a day. As you can see, it's very wet. It's been raining all the way. And I'm going to stop dry out a bit here before I continue. With the poncho before, and I was soaked underneath totally, so I changed the layer and I saran wrapped my knees. Hopefully I'll stay a bit drier this way. I'm heading on to Rabanal now. I think it's another 8 kilometers if I'm not wrong. And then it's uphill to the Cruz de Ferro and then downhill. I put on my hat underneath because you need, the brim at least keeps the poncho from flying in my face all the time. It's still raining and rather wet. The path is going next to the road, but some pilgrims are actually walking on the road. But I prefer to be out here because when you see the cars come by, they really get sprayed. But it is raining, not very much, but just enough to keep you really wet. As you can see, my poncho is soaked. Got myself a sopa de ajo, which should help warm me up. I just changed into different pants and a different shirt because everything is so different. It's about another 8 kilometers to Acebo, where I want to head today. I'm here by the Cruz de Ferro. This is a place where you're supposed to bring a little stone and offer it. The rains are getting more intense and the wind's getting more intense. I am walking on the road because the Camino just ends up being a river of water coming down at you. And it is very foggy, so you can't see much. But it's been a long and very wet walk today. I got my headlight on. Just walking through the next little town. As you can, it's still raining. It's another 6 kilometers to Molina Seca. Walking down. But it is pretty. And you can see all the fog rolling in. I just came around the curve and I nearly got blown over. The wind is just incredible. And it's still raining like crazy. So I'm going to debate if I take a bus from Molina Seca. There are a lot of cars and taxis running around. So one needs to be pretty careful, especially in the curves. Straight down there in the valley ahead is Molina Seca. Just stopped for breakfast here in Molina Seca. Tomato tostada. And the day is looking way nicer than before. Sun finally came out. But we'll see how it goes, because I would like to go beyond Ponferrada. Molina Seca is a beautiful town, as you can see. There are a whole bunch of albergues and beautiful little streets on the side. Definitely a place to stop, and this is actually where I wanted to stop, but it rained so badly yesterday that there was no ways I was going to make it down here. The rains and the winds were just terrible yesterday, and I got soaked. The walk from Molina Seca to Ponferrada is all along the road on a sidewalk, so it's not very interesting at all. I am just leaving the albergue here in Ponferrada. Very nice place, got a beautiful kitchen and everything, and the rooms were excellent. The dorm, I had the whole dorm, 6-person dorm to myself, very comfortable beds. But I am going to, where am I going to? Villafranca del Brezo. I'm leaving a bit late, as you can see. There's light outside, which is quite unusual. And this albergue is right on the Camino. One of the reasons I left a bit later today, because it was still supposed to rain at 7 a.m. Today it's only 24 kilometers, so I could take my time. Sat by the fire for a second and had a soup, and now it's another 9 kilometers to Villafranca del Brezo. We just had a quick downpour, about 15 minutes. So I'm walking on the side of the road here. And not much traffic, but the countryside is absolutely beautiful. I don't want to get on the caminos here because I know how muddy they can be, because last time I was on it, when I did it in the winter, and it was super muddy. We're just walking into Villafranca. Beautiful little castle. Tonight I'm staying in a monastery. But I got myself a private room today, even though they did have some dorm beds here. But I think I deserved it, and this is actually a very nice room. Ready to leave here. I'm just looking out of the window. It looks like a beautiful day today. Today I'm not heading all too far. It was supposed to be raining this morning, but it looks like a fantastic day. It's only about 20 something kilometers because I wanted to avoid hiking up to Orseveredo the last part of the day, because it's about a 11 kilometer uphill walk and I wanted to avoid that, so I'm staying just before the uphill section. I'm heading towards a bridge to cross the river and to get on the Camino. When we come over, we have the Camino. But they have improved this since the last time, and they put in a sidewalk, so you no longer have to walk on the road itself. Every now and then you get off the road here. Little sleepy villages really are nice. Just walking out of Las Heredias, a tiny little village. There's only 20 people living in this town, but the hotel was absolutely fantastic. One of my favorites so far. Today it's a long walk up to Orseveredo, or steep walk up to Orseveredo. So I'm getting a bit of an early start because I want to make it to Samos, the monastery in Samos. And it is quite an incline going up. I think it's a 1,000-meter gain. And it's like 8 kilometers of uphill, and it's supposed to rain a bit later, so right now there's no rain, which is good. Taking a quick breather here. It is a very strenuous path up here. It is rather rocky and rather wet, but I'd say it is much more strenuous than the path up to after St. John to Roncesvalles. It is muddy, but it looks like it's going to be a good day. The sun has just risen, and it's about another 4 kilometers to Orseveredo, so it should be another hour or so. But it's been really, really nice, and thankfully it hasn't been too cold and it hasn't rained so far. Behind me here is the sign that we're officially entering Galicia. It's been around 15 days walking through Castilla León, and now it's only another 5 days till Santiago from here for me, because I'm going to speed up my walking a bit. It's a beautiful Camino today. We have Tricastella in our view there. Just as I was departing, it started to rain, so now I'm in this little room, and I really had no desire of staying in an albergue tonight, to tell you the truth. Turns out to be a beautiful day today. Yesterday, I stopped for a coffee at around 4:30, but the second I left, it started to rain. And when I went out to eat, it was still raining, so it was a good choice. Today, it's a bit longer, but the monastery is supposed to be absolutely worth it. The monastery in Samos was absolutely fantastic. It's about another 10 kilometers to Sarria. Just entering Sarria. I'm actually gonna try to get something to eat first before I make up my mind what I'm gonna do next. I'm just leaving my hotel here in Sarria. It is supposed to rain, as there's a big storm front coming up, but I'm dressed for the occasion, so let's see how that works. There are a whole bunch of pilgrims. The reason being is because Sarria is one of the points where you can start your Camino and still get the credenciales stating that you walked the Camino Francés. It's only 113 kilometers from here to Santiago, and a lot of people are taking 6 to 7 days to do it. Hopefully I'll be in Santiago in 3 days. As you leave Sarria, there are two different routes you can take. One that leads you through the valley, and one that cuts up right where the train tracks are. This one is much shorter than the other one, so that's why I'm taking it, because I want to get as far as possible today. Just arriving at the spot where the two variants of the Camino come together. The variant I came down, I didn't see a pilgrim for about an hour. This is the Rio Minho here. I'm going to stop here for lunch and then carry on. Just had a quick lunch in Portamarin, and now I am carrying on another 8 or 10 kilometers, depending on the albergue situation. But it's nice to walk in the afternoons because there are way less people. I haven't seen a pilgrim since I left town, and I don't expect to see many pilgrims. In front of the Albergue Municipal here in Gonzar, and I'm headed off to Melide today. It was supposed to be a rainy day once again, and it did rain overnight, but right now it looks pretty good. So off we go. Thought it wasn't going to rain this morning when I left the albergue, so I didn't even have my poncho on, and then 5 minutes later it started to rain. Just as it was starting to rain, I pulled in and stopped in this albergue. It's a beautiful place, and thankfully I did stop there for like 15 minutes because it started to hail like crazy. But the weather has moved on, and I'm moving on. Pretty crazy weather today. Past the rain peeking through the forest here. But I'm going to keep on walking to Melide. The weather, well, it looks like it's holding. Leaving the hostel albergue here in Melide, and today I'm going to try to make it as far as Santiago, so it's a long walk. Hopefully I'll be able to make it. It is not the nicest weather today, but the sky is clearing up a bit, so hopefully it won't be as bad as it seems. I'm just taking a quick shelter here because it is pouring down. I'm looking for a coffee shop. There are some pilgrims ahead of me, and it is still quite dark, so it's difficult to see the rocky terrain coming out here. Arthur is one of the main stops on the Camino. Just stopped for breakfast, and they got some churros and my coffee. Artois is a place where the Camino Primitivo and the French merge. I've been down this part of the Camino a few times. The rain has gotten a bit better. Here's one of those trucks that will send your backpack. It is nice and light again, so let's see where I'm going. We're on the final stretch here of my Camino Francés number 2. Just past Opedruso. Actually just went straight instead of going into town. You don't have to walk through town, and you're always in the forest, which is kind of nice. We're getting close. The final little forest here before the airport. Somebody got rid of their boot right at the end of the Camino.